We obviously all want to work to ensure that the promise of Social Security and Medicare, people have been paying into these systems. We want those promises to be kept, but we also know that structurally going forward, if the changes aren't made, we won't be able to do that. And so it's a very important conversation. I do want to talk about, Mr. Spitalnik, the Medicare funding warning, quote. This year, the trustees issued a Medicare funding warning. Can you explain what that is? And what does that require as a response from the legislature or the president? Is it a trigger of some sort that is intended to require some action? So give us a background on that.
Sure. I think it started back in the Medicare Modernization Act, back in 2003, put in this requirement where the trustees would evaluate the proportion of revenues that were dedicated sources, and when that proportion exceeded 45%, this warning would effectively be triggered if certain conditions were met over 2 consecutive years. Effectively, if there was more than 2 consecutive years of general revenue, general government contributions into the Medicare program, when that exceeded this 45%. It was somewhat of an arbitrary.
Yeah, I was going to say, why did we pick those numbers? Arbitrary, as you said. But the idea is what? Why do we do it?
So when this was, in response to a Medicare funding warning, the Congress has asked that the president, in response, in their subsequent budget, would provide proposals that would address that particular circumstance. So we'll get the proportion of funding dedicated down to that 45% level. My understanding is that the executive branch under different party leadership have each concluded that, in their opinion, that provision, that requirement that they actually provide a proposal in response to that trigger is unconstitutional. And I am far from a constitutional lawyer, and so I will not opine on any of that, but as part of the work of the Board of Trustees, they do calculate and determine whether this trigger is reached or not.
I would certainly like to understand that. It doesn't seem to me like it would be unconstitutional or require action by the executive branch, by the president, by the administration, when we've crossed some threshold, even if it is arbitrary, when we know there's going to be problems going forward. So certainly that would have been the intent of the previous Congresses who put that into law. So I hate to see it ignored. I mean, and we also know that the longer we wait, the harder this is going to be to resolve. You would both say, I'm sure, that it's important for the administration to work with the legislature to come up with proposals to solve this, and the sooner the better. Do you agree with that?
I would completely agree that the nature of the problems, the issues surrounding both the Medicare and the Social Security program require bipartisan collaboration in terms of addressing them.
Sure. This committee probably was talked about before today, but passed out of committee here a bill that would create a commission that would be intended to do just that, where it would be bipartisan and maybe even members of the administration who essentially hold a conversation with the American people about what we're faced with. Like, if action isn't taken in 9 years, people will get 80% or something like that of the Social Security check that they should receive. Do you both support that? Do you think that would be valuable for that to occur?
As back in 1982, the so-called Greens came. There was also a commission back in 1979, which made a big head start on it. And having that conversation is really important. We have, because of many, many members of Congress putting forth proposals for affecting Social Security, we have a large list of provisions and proposals up on our website to sort of look at and choose from. A commission that would look through all of those possibilities and come to a consensus would be a really good thing. And your point about sooner rather than later to inform the American people would be a very good thing.
I'd also agree that the sooner that these problems are discussed and ultimately addressed, the less significant those changes will need to be. And so the earlier, certainly the better.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.